Here's a little bit of good news tonight. A New Mexico court dismissed all charges against Phil Mosick, who videotaped a TSA encounter at an airport. Why were the charges dismissed? Because what he was doing wasn't against the law, but that didn't stop the government's agents from arresting and charging him. Watch as Phil's recording shows he knew the laws better than the people who are supposed to enforce them. Here is Phil filming at a TSA checkpoint.
I plan to comply with all their rules. I do not believe that there is a rule that bars me from using a camera in publicly accessible areas of the airport.
This is a federal checkpoint. You can't do it here.
I've checked into it, and I know that I can do it here.
Well, you can be arrested, then you can check into it more.
TSA agents demanded to see Mosick's identification.
I'm going to need your ID now.
I don't have any ID to show you.
Sir, we're going to arrest you for concealing identity.
Am I required to?
Yes, you are now part of an investigation, a criminal investigation. You are required to give us your ID.
What am I being investigated for?
For disturbing the peace.
Disturbing the peace. A brave man to stand up to the goons at the TSA. With us now, the man who shot that video, Phil Mosick. Phil, welcome to Freedom Watch. All right, give us the picture.
Hello, Judge.
You are of the view, and rightly so, that there's no federal law that requires you to identify yourself. You don't need permission to travel from point A to point B in the United States. You're confronted by the goons in the TSA. What did they do to you?
Well, we shouldn't need to identify ourselves to travel from one state to another. I went into the airport with a boarding pass, and I handed it to the TSA document checker, as I'm required to, and they started some alternative process. I got out my camera. I wanted to document what was happening, and you never know what will happen with TSA, and they didn't like that. The police were called over, and within a few minutes, I was arrested and I was put in jail. And I was charged with resisting arrest, with trespassing, with failure to obey a lawful order of an officer, and with concealing identity.
And all of this happened because you recorded the officers of the government behaving in a public place, and because you declined to produce for them a government-issued ID. Is that right?
It seems to be. We don't know. It's hard to tell exactly why they arrested me, but those two things were what set everyone off.
All right.
When the TSA security guard first spoke with the police officer, with his supervisor, he explained that I was photographing the process and that I was refusing to show ID.
Did you have an ID on you at the time?
I did not have ID to show them. People lose their ID all the time. People show up at the airport with identification that's been stolen or misplaced, and TSA has a process. They have a process in place. They knew that, and they had begun this process, but it seems that they didn't like it.
All right.
We really should not have to. This identification process allows our government to say who gets to travel and who doesn't.
Right.
It's not so much the act of pulling this card out of your wallet that's troublesome. It's the idea that I have to go up and request permission and wait for a permission to proceed from one state to another in the United States.
And you know that Janet Napolitano, who we call on this show Cousin Janet, even though, of course, there's no relationship of which I'm aware, has actually begun doing this at various train stations and bus stations throughout the country. So this show me your papers in order to travel at the airports is probably just the tip of the iceberg of what will come if the government is not restrained.
It seems the TSA would like that to spread to other modes of transit, yes.
All right. What happened when this case went to court? Because the government, after it arrested you, actually literally charged you and prosecuted you, didn't they?
Yes. It took almost 14 months. This was in November of 2009, and my trial was last week.
What's the outcome of the trial? What did the judge do?
The judge did a very good job. The jury acquitted me of all charges. They looked at the evidence. The best evidence we had was the videotape that I made, and they found that I wasn't guilty. And you know, if I hadn't made that video, it's very likely that I would have been convicted of things that I did not do. It's very important for us to be able to record the actions of our public employees.
That is so key, Phil, that you filmed what the government goons did, and a jury of 12 Americans looking at it decided this is not the way we want the government to treat people in this country. Phil, you're a hero to the freedom of travel. Thank you very much for joining us on Freedom Watch.
Thanks for having me on.